Welcome back to Two Keto Dudes. This is Carl Franklin from Connecticut in the United States. And in February of 2016, I put myself on a ketogenic diet to take control of my metabolism. In just 2.5 months, I managed to reverse all my markers of type 2 diabetes with diet alone. As of now, I'm 80 pounds lighter with no signs of diabetes or heart disease.
Hi, I'm Richard Morris in Canberra, Australia.
No, you're not.
No, I'm actually in Connecticut.
At Keto Fest!
Keto Fest! Yes, we're recording in front of a live studio audience.
A live gymnasium audience.
At Keto Fest in Connecticut. And I should let you know that I've been on a ketogenic diet since April of 2014. And when I started, I was very sick with complications from type 2 diabetes. And within 6 months of starting a ketogenic diet, all of my biomarkers of disease had disappeared. I've lost about 100 pounds. I've completely turned my health around.
And this show is a document of our experiences thriving for years in nutritional ketosis.
Yeah, and reversing diabetes.
And hopefully that might help a few people who are curious about this kind of dietary hacking.
We're not doctors. We don't want to give anyone any medical advice, but we are keen to share our own experiences. We're actually both software developers, so we're not afraid of a little technical detail, are we, Carl?
Hell no.
We're not afraid of repeating ourselves every episode either.
No.
We've done some research into our own deranged metabolisms and the science behind that, and we share studies that we've found in the show notes.
And you'll probably work out pretty quickly that we're both foodies. Mm-hmm. We love to cook and we love to eat. In every episode, we both share a keto recipe that cannot, will not, and shall not be ignored. Except maybe this one, because I don't have a recipe.
No, I have a recipe that I just cooked at the Keto Fest cooking demo, so we'll do that.
All right, cool. So let's get started with podcast number 127.
That would be 111111 in binary. We're going to chat with Amy Berger.
Yeah! So, Richard, do we have any apologies or corrections from last week's show?
That was sitting down with Chef Andrew Justice.
Yeah.
No, he did a really good recipe for pork skin. So
great.
That was a wonderful episode. I really enjoyed chatting with him. So no apologies. But
we do have one piece of errata, which was we mentioned that there was going to be 2 episodes of sitting down with Carrie Brown.
Yeah.
And actually, we put the whole thing in one show.
And just made a really long show.
Show. So we'll change that. Yeah. Change that up for you. Sorry to tease you, but there was only an hour and a half of content there.
Yeah.
That was probably pretty good. Okay, so let's revisit what a ketogenic diet is.
Sure. Ketogenic diet is eating 20 grams or less of carbohydrates per day, getting all of your energy from fat and not from glucose. Protein is moderate. What we did was between 1 and 1.5 grams per kilo of lean mass, but essentially the same amount of protein that you're eating on a standard American diet. It's not that much dissimilar. You're not eating a lot of protein to get your energy. You're getting your energy from fat.
That's the cruise ship I heard earlier. Yeah. So, how was your week?
I'm at Keto Fest, so my week's awesome. I'm tired. It's been stressful. It was alleviated a lot by the fact that we have like 64 different volunteers.
Oh my God, let's give them a big hand.
Go hug anyone that you see with a red shirt.
Right. And the thing is that people think that it's just Richard and I doing the podcasts and doing Keto Fest and stuff, but it's an army now. And it really makes all the difference in the world when people like you just come and help and hang out and share your time and it's just amazing. So we were a little bit blown away by the response we got to the call for volunteers, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we've been both doing this week is, this is Saturday, the 21st. Yes, I know what day it is. I also got 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
We had the big party at my house last night, which was an epic success.
The VIP party, yes.
The VIP party, lots of great food and drink there. And the pig was just served. Like it's being served now.
Yeah.
And yet these people came here to see us.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
That's the power of keto right there.
I can fast through that pig and go watch a podcast.
I can wait an hour, no problem. Well, that's great. So this is usually the point in the show where we give away some stuff, but we didn't really pull all that stuff together because we're kind of busy doing cooking demos and things. Yeah. So let's roll that now. Hey, this is Carl Franklin in the studio post Keto Fest to announce the winner of this week's big giveaway. As you know, every show we pick a lucky winner at random from the members of the 2 Keto Dudes fan club. And today we're giving away a treasure trove of stuff from vendors we like, all of which you can find at fanclub.2keto.com. And this week's winner is Jeff Hunter. And here's a list of all the things Jeff has won. First thing we're giving away is a 2 Keto Dudes coffee mug that says keep calm and keto on, and it also has Richard's and my mugs on it. And a signed copy of Lies My Doctor Told Me by Dr. Ken Berry. And a bottle of Stevia Sweet barbecue sauce, developed by a barbecue restaurant owner who plans to change the restaurant industry forever. This sauce is full-flavored and only 1 gram of sugar with 2 carbs per serving. Online at steviasweetbbq.com. And a cheese-making kit from Wine & Whey. Pam Zorn gave everyone at Keto Fest a kit so they could make their own fresh mozzarella. Online at wineandwhey.com. And a 6-ounce cup of beef bone broth concentrate from Birthright Nutrition. Simply add water, heat, stir, sip, and enjoy. 6 ounces makes 42 ounces of deep, rich, delicious bone broth jam-packed with collagen, gelatin, antioxidants, and minerals. More at birthrightnutrition.com. And if you don't want to wait to win some swag, you can buy all sorts of it online at gear.2keto.com. Well, there you go. Now I guess it's time for, and maybe everybody can join in. Ready? Put in the front with a Mail t-shirt on. Look at that.
I'm feeling a bit peckish on the other one. So I got a mail from this week. Actually, somebody came up to me at the cooking demonstration at RD86, and it was an elderly gentleman, and he said, I'm actually here because my son made me come here. Then his son came over and introduced himself, and they told me this story that the father was the last person in the family to go keto. The son went keto first, but didn't tell anybody about it. It's just when they went out at a restaurant, he'd say, no bread for me or no pasta for me. Yeah. I'll just eat the meat, and he'd send the potatoes back to the chef, and he was basically leading by example. And so very quickly his mother caught on, and so his mother was saying no bread for me, no bread for me. Yeah. And then the father eventually was eating all of the bread and realizing that the rest of the family wasn't eating bread. So when they made their order, he said, don't bother sending any bread to the table. And the father actually told me the story that his kidney stones, he used to get a kidney stone attack at least once a month. And Dr. Ken Berry was telling us the other day that women who've had multiple pregnancies and kidney stones say that they would rather have one more pregnancy than having a kidney stone. Yeah. So, women don't normally give up that kind of level of pain lightly. So you can imagine the kind of pain that he was going through. From the moment he went keto, he has never had a kidney stone. He's been keto for 18 months. So, yeah. Well done. That's it. Well done, sir. And there is a mechanism behind that. The mechanism, as I understand, behind that is that when we have high insulin, we reabsorb lots of things, not only sodium, but we also reabsorb uric acid. And also, in the early days, acetoacetate coming out through the urine competes with uric acid, and so you get a little bit of build-up at the beginning of keto. But once you're well on the way with keto, the lower insulin is going to mean that you're able to pee out uric acid gently rather than building up in the body and becoming crystals. This is one of the reasons why people quit early on before they actually let their body get used to it. It's because you have all these changes that happen, and people think, "Oh, I got to put up with this for the rest of my life." Forget that. It's a couple of weeks. It's just a couple of weeks. Yeah. So that's my mail. It's a hand-delivered mail. Excellent. I have one here from somebody in the Newbies forum. By the way, any ketogenic forum users here? Yeah, very good. For the rest of you, just go to success.2keto.com, and that's a really great place to start in the forum. It's a huge thread with before and after photos and people's stories. But this is in a thread, a newbies topic called "In Getting Started," and Tyler says, "Tongue spasms?" ? And I picked this because it's so weird. Right? But, a spasm is a spasm is a spasm, right? And so listen to what he says here. Hey there, has anyone experienced tongue twitching and spasms when starting keto?
I'm 3 weeks in and started getting these weird spasms today. I'm probably a bit dehydrated, but drinking a lot of water, herbal tea now. I had keto flu week 1, but I feel I've recovered. I still get that hypoglycemia stuff and feel shaky, dizzy at times. However, I'm exercising and hunger is diminishing, so I assume it's just a transient state until adaptation. It's more this weird tongue thing freaking me out and increasing anxiety. Any ideas? Web searching goes straight to MS, ALS, so trying to stay clear. The responses are mostly, are you getting enough electrolytes, specifically salt? Salt, magnesium, and potassium consumption are critical when eating low-carb, high-fat. As Richard was saying, the kidneys retain a lot of these things when your insulin is high. And when your insulin is low, the kidneys will flush them at what we think is an abnormal rate, but it's really the natural rate. So you have to have more salt and magnesium, this kind of thing, electrolytes, than you think you do.
And Professor Finney really has got us all looking at electrolytes. He was the one who really raised the alarm initially that, a lot of the symptoms of keto flu, he believes are hypernatremia, not enough sodium, because we're flushing it all out. So.
Right. Yeah, so that's it. That's what I got.
So we're sitting down at Keto Fest with Amy Berger. Welcome, Amy.
Hey.
Amy Berger.
I'm so happy to finally meet you two in person, and my first appearance on the show, I get to do it live.
Yeah, that's great.
A live gymnasium audience.
Yeah. So you're nodding your head when you're hearing these stories about keto adaptation and electrolytes and things like that.
Yeah, I also think, though, something worth saying is that sometimes not everything is because of keto. Sometimes you get sick, or sometimes something happens, and because it's such a dramatic diet change, we always want to attribute it to keto, when sometimes stuff just happens.
Right.
Now, I don't know about the tongue twitching thing, but just in general, well, I got a cold. Is this because of keto? I caught the flu. Could this be because, like the real flu, not the keto flu? Could this be because of keto? No, maybe you just caught something. Contrary to what we want to believe, keto doesn't actually make you invincible. It gets you as close as you can be to invincible, but it doesn't actually make you immortal.
Yep. I won $100 in the lotto. Is that because of keto?
That is because of keto, actually, yes.
That's right. So the issue we were talking about is an old one, that the longer I've been in the community and the more I talk to people who don't really have any idea what's going on, the more fear I sense in people of, wanting to let go of their beer and their bread and whatever, and thinking that they're just going to starve and fall apart, and or maybe the fat thing they don't understand or get. There's a lot of fear and anxiety around it.
You mean fear of adopting a ketogenic diet?
Yeah, fear of eating so much fat, fear of losing, they think they're going to lose all their favorite foods and going to be craving them for the rest of their life, whatever. There's just like a lot of anxiety people have around. But
keto is, the beautiful thing about keto is there's two aspects to that issue. And the first is, it's very hard for people to understand this until they do keto.
Yeah.
But so many of those cravings actually go away. You don't want the bagel. I was born and raised in New York City. I ate a bagel the size of my head every single day until I was at least 18 years old. And I haven't had a bagel, and I couldn't tell you how many, not even a keto bagel. I just don't want bagels. I don't even want a keto version. I don't miss it. I don't miss pasta. I don't miss rice. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is, thanks to all the really creative cookbook bloggers or recipe bloggers and cookbook authors, there's really nothing you can't make a keto version of. It might be more expensive if you have to buy the erythritol and the almond flour and stuff, but there's nothing that you can't recreate if you want to.
Yeah, and it might be novel for a while, too. I found that when I started, I really wanted to experiment a lot with recipes. And I told Richard lately that, when I eat now, it's just like, pork, beef, salt. I don't really need to do all that stuff and have all that ceremony, although I love cooking.
Yeah.
It's just very easy for me to take a vacation from it for a while.
Yeah. I'm a foodie, but my cooking is also very simple. And I sort of get that from, I still watch the Food Network. Just because I don't eat 90% of what they cook doesn't mean I can't still enjoy them, watch them cook.
I love to eat watching Chopped. This is a thing that's become in my house. And I'm not, looking at the baba and going, ooh, I gotta have that. Not at all.
I miss making pasta, fresh pasta, Not so much the eating of it, but the actual process of
ceremony.
Making it. The ceremony of making pasta. I really miss that.
See, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because no offense to anyone who is in the zero carb movement or the carnivore movement, there's certainly an aspect of beauty and simplicity. I just eat steak. I buy a steak, I go to the grocery store, I go to the meat aisle, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I also think it's part of human culture to cook and to celebrate and to share meals with people and to eat communally. And I feel like I love to hear you talk about food and be excited about different flavors and different spices, because I think that's an aspect of just human culture. And there's nothing wrong with just eating meat, but it's such a beautiful part of, that's such a nerdy thing to say, but it's such a beautiful part of humanity is sharing food.
And sharing the cooking process too with your children and your family and friends. Yeah.
Or
a town.
Or a town.
Yeah.
we actually believe that cooking is part of the secret sauce for how to get people onto a ketogenic diet. Specifically, I mean, boys in my generation were shortchanged when it came to learning to cook. I started cooking when I was maybe 45. Up until then, I had maybe 5 recipes. Spaghetti bolognese, tacos from a box, wraps wrapped around something, toast and Vegemite,
popcorn.
I didn't have a lot of popcorn in the microwave. I didn't have a lot of recipes, and that ever since, and I'm 52, so that's 7 years. I've just been voraciously sort of picking up as many recipes as I can and trying to learn how food works and how meals get put together. And I think we shortchange our children when we don't teach them. Okay, we don't sit down and have a meal at a restaurant and ask the question, okay, how do you think that was made? What do you think went into that? How did the restaurant prepare that food? I think that's an interesting exercise to go through with kids, and I think it will teach kids, it will sort of inoculate them against obesity, which I think is an important thing.
That's part of why I like watching shows like Chopped or Beat Bobby Flay or something, is I learn technique. Like, I never would have thought to pair those things together, or that's how you make a gastrique or something. But I also think, even if you're not super, super low carb or strictly ketogenic, cooking your own food from scratch at home is going to be a vast improvement over dining out 3 meals a day every day. Even if you're still cooking the potatoes and the corn and the rice, it's still going to be that much better than eating God knows what out of a box.
So one of your things is you try to simplify this ketogenic thing for people who tend, we're analytical creatures, especially when diets are concerned. For the last 50 years, people have been measuring and, science and, only a micro spoon of that, and you got to do this 3 times a day and rituals and stuff. And if you don't do the right thing at the right time, you screwed it up. It's your fault. And that's why it didn't work for you. So what do you think? Simplifying.
The beauty of this way of eating is that you shouldn't have to micromanage. You shouldn't have to weigh and measure your food. You shouldn't have to make a spreadsheet for your meal. If you enjoy that, because I'm the opposite, like I mentioned, I'm such a good friend of Dave Feldman, but I'm so very the opposite of him in terms of the data and the tracking. I'm glad there are people that want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not numbers driven. I love food too much to turn it into a math project. I don't believe in doing calculus at the dinner table. If you find that you need to do that, because if you don't, you're going to go completely off the rails and eat, 250 grams of carbs, then maybe you do need to track. But I feel like the beauty of low carb and keto is that you shouldn't have to. If you just keep carbs very low, all the rest is details. That's responsible for like 80 to 90% of the efficacy of this way of eating, is just keeping the carbs really low.
Right.
The omega-6, omega-3 thing, the dairy thing, carnivore, that's sugar-free icing on the almond flour cake, frankly.
Nice.
Yeah. One of the things that is interesting is, as people do go carnivore, their taste interests narrow very much, and Carl gave a good example. He's quite happy just eating pork.
Well, today.
Well, that's an exception.
Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll go back to eating pork rind-crusted chicken parm, which is one of my favorites, with thighs, by the way, not breasts.
So Jules had a theory that part of the difference between people who eat more vegetables in their diet and like variety, and people who eat only meat and like to only eat meat and aren't interested in a variety, is the distinction between gatherers and hunters. So a hunter hunts down a prey, gets meat. What does he want? He wants another piece of prey. So he wants another bit of that meat. So evolutionarily, this is a hypothesis, evolutionarily, what is going to be his best advantage is only wanting meat and focusing narrowly on that. Whereas if you think of a gatherer, somebody who gathers berries, what's their evolutionary advantage? Their advantage is having multiple different sources of things. I want yams, I want berries, I want some, some fruit, I want some, and so the two things are, we're evolutionarily wired to prefer both. In context. And so when we're out hunting, and it's not a male-female thing, it's a hunter-gatherer thing that we all share in our DNA. So that's a hypothesis why some people go carnivore and they say, I'm happy eating meat and drinking water. And that's possibly an explanation for how that happens.
It kind of makes sense. I mean, even for me, I love meat. I love to eat steak. I love pork chops, chicken. If that was all that was available to me, I'd probably be satisfied. If there's other stuff and I have it, I do tend to want more. Even we're talking about broccoli and zucchini and things that are totally keto friendly and low carb friendly. It's not like we're talking junk that I want to keep eating more of. To me, I would be fine with just having the meat, but I know that if I do try a lot of things, then I want more and more. But what always kind of strikes me as weird, and it's kind of along this evolutionary thing, when I think of picky kids, there's so many kids now with eating issues, super, super picky, right? My child only eats fish sticks. He lives on grilled cheese and hot dogs. Well, what happened 1,000 years ago? Did the kids not caribou again, Mom? Deer again? Like we just killed a caribou and you're going to eat it for the next month and you'll bloody love it. What did they do? That he doesn't want caribou. I guess I'm going to have to find some carrots. Like this picky eating is very novel, I think, to the human family.
Finish all that caribou that's in the freezer.
Like you couldn't be a picky eater 1,000 years ago.
You wouldn't. It'd be selected against.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it's come up. It's interesting how it's come up after the rise of agriculture. I mean, and this is it potentially could be part of the derangement that highly processed carbohydrates have caused on us. One of the things that we often remark on is that it's not that so much that keto cures so many illnesses. Our bodies cure so many illnesses once we get the derangement out of the way. And keto gets all of that high insulin, permanent chronic high insulin derangement out of the way. And then our bodies find their homeostasis for a lot of things, whether it's energy intake. A lot of us go keto and find that we stop eating, we're satiated when we've had adequate energy.
And the list goes on, blood pressure and
blood
fatty
pressure
liver.
And all of these things. And it could well be that picky eating goes away once somebody gets that derangement out of their system.
Interesting.
So, it's just a hypothesis. I don't have kids, so I can't try and experiment on them.
Next time I get in my time machine, I will bring some chicken nuggets and we'll do a little experiment.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, Amy, you're a nutritionist. We forgot to mention that at the top of the show, which is interesting. How did you come to keto?
I wasn't always a nutritionist. I definitely was a career changer, as they say. I found low carb and keto the way a lot of people do. I was overweight and I was never obese, but I was definitely chubby, and I was chubby so when I was a little kid, I was a real couch potato. My favorite thing, it still is, my favorite thing is to sit on my butt in a chair with a book. So certainly I was not big on exercise, and I grew up on a standard American, bowl of cereal every day, toast, margarine, the whole 9 yards. But as I got older, I started exercising more. I started eating what I thought was a healthy diet. Lots of grain, lots of whole grain, light margarine, lower fat, snacking on pretzels, granola bars, the healthy fiber bars. And I could not drop weight no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked. I ran 2 marathons. I have pictures of myself at the finish line of both of these marathons online, and I'm significantly puffy. Because as Asim Malhotra and Steve Finney and all them say, you can't outrun a bad diet. And I am proof of that. It was serendipity that my mother got a copy of the Atkins book at a yard sale, the 1992 Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. And I read it and it made sense. It just made sense. But it was very scary. I mean, it was terrifying. This is so crazy, but I've already I spent so much of my young adult life beating myself up and feeling ashamed and feeling like a failure and internalizing that failure. What's wrong with me? Why are all my other friends so thin? They eat garbage. They wouldn't know a barbell from a doorbell, but I did Atkins and I would never look back. And I do remember the first time I put heavy cream in my coffee instead of skim milk. And I was like, am I going to feel my arteries clogging immediately? Or is it going to take a week before I have this heart attack?
I used to have friends who'd say, it's going to turn my blood to putty.
Yeah, because it's so different from what we're used to, but it worked.
Yeah.
And so I started and then eventually years later, I went back to school and I got a master's in nutrition because I was a career changer. And at one point, I was very unhappy in the work that I was doing. And I said, nutritionist is a career. Like, that's a thing that I could do. Maybe I could actually help other people with low carb. Yeah. And over the years of doing research about why and how keto and low carb work, weight loss, to me, at this point, is the least impressive thing that it does.
I totally agree.
Hey, it might reverse your diabetes. It might reverse your cardiovascular disease. It might help your MS. Oh, and by the way, you might also drop a couple of pounds along the way.
Right.
So I'm so much more fascinated by the other stuff, but I came into it initially mostly for weight loss.
We were tempted, actually, one episode, we removed the weight loss bit from the top of the show.
Yeah.
And we actually said, we're not in this for the weight loss. We're in this for all of the other benefits, and the weight loss came along with being able to regulate our energy intake.
And you guys were mentioning before, I forget in what context, but talking about reversing some of these illnesses, that even in the keto community, many of us are still so focused on the body weight and the body size and shape.
Right.
When the thing is, you guys know it, probably a lot of us in this room know it, so many of the health things get better even while you still have a lot of weight to lose. Yeah. So you can focus on the scale, or you can say, I'm off my insulin. Yeah. My fasting blood sugar was 92 this morning when it used to be 146, or...
I have 10 toes.
Yeah, my joint pain is gone.
Like that. Yeah.
My acid reflux is gone. And instead it's like, oh, but I have 80 more pounds to lose. But you're so much healthier. And this is very personal to me, having been heavier and working my butt off to not be heavy, that we still have this knee-jerk reaction on size, and we still judge by size.
We all do. Here's a story for you. So one of our previous guests and an admin and a dear man, Tom Seast, is here. And I just met him in person yesterday for the first time.
So did I. Yeah. But you've known him longer.
Yeah, I've known him longer. We've Skyped and whatever. I overheard somebody say, what is that guy doing, promoting the ketogenic diet? Because he's big. I mean, he's a large man. And I just looked at him and said, he's lost 300 pounds. So think about this. So 300 pounds, right? Tom. So what you're looking at are people who were really morbidly obese, so obese that they couldn't step on a scale and get a reading, and they've lost 300 pounds, and all you're seeing is where they are today and thinking, what business does that guy have, You've got to know where they started.
Yeah, we don't know where anyone came from. And not that I think this is a good idea, but rather than judging people based on their size and you know nothing else about them, if we all had to walk around with sandwich boards over our necks that said triglycerides 52, HDL 79.
Actually, you got a digital readout.
Then it might be different. Oh, well, he's 327 pounds, but he's in perfect health. Look at those numbers.
Yeah.
So it's so personal to me because of... like I said, I was never obese, but maybe just being a young woman in the American culture, I felt like I was. Yeah. And I treated myself as if I was. But
that's a whole hour right there.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is our bodies find a homeostasis. Our bodies are designed to keep us in a range, in a weight range that in the context of the inputs that the body has. That's what the body believes is the most survivable weight range. And look at us three. We're all different weights. We've all been ketogenic for many years, and our bodies have each found their own homeostasis that our bodies believe is going to cause us to live long enough to reproduce more often. And so, that's it's unique to the context. And there are things that you can do. If you're 10 pounds away from where your ideal weight is, and you just really want to get those 10 pounds off, there are lots of other things that you can do, like trying sleep hygiene, if you're already low carb, there's not a lot more you can do with your diet, to work on that. You can try, getting more sun. Sleep, I think, is an important one that we have a lot of problem with. But the other thing is, maybe your body knows better than you what your weight should be. Yeah. That's another thing.
Maybe your body's actually smart.
Maybe you should be those 10 pounds heavier because maybe you like doing marathon bike riding after a 3-day fast. And maybe your body says, if you're going to do stuff like that, we're going to have you carry about 30 pounds of body fat because we know we can get, 900 calories out of that per day. And that's going to be adequate to be able to run you your race.
I could not agree more about not necessarily a set point, but just so I forget which doctor said this, but one of the low carb doctors a long time ago said, keto will get you as lean as you can be, but that might not be as lean as you want to be. If you want to go further, yeah, maybe you do have to pull out some more stops.
Calorie restrict will always guarantee to lose your weight from that point on.
And it might not be comfortable. It might not be maintainable. And maybe there's a reason for that.
And you may lose lean mass, but it will lose you if you really need to lose those last 10 pounds. That will do it. But, you know, as you say, it may not be sustainable.
Yeah. Well, this is maybe one of the reasons why intermittent fasting has gotten so popular, because that seems to be a way people can break out of long plateaus, you know. And there isn't necessarily one formula for it, as Megan Ramos says all the time.
I think if you're eating keto three meals a day plus keto snacks in between, then intermittent fasting is ideal for you, because that is going to give your body the maximum amount of time in that fasted. You really want to swing between fed and fasted. That's what we're designed to do. And if you are feeding, 6 times a day, it doesn't matter if it's keto, you're feeding 6 times a day.
Your insulin's still going to go up.
But if you feed once at dinner and then don't eat after dinner and don't eat breakfast and maybe don't eat until lunch, your body goes through a really nice long fasting
and fat to satiety. That's what we preach.
But I also want to sort of emphasize the feasting part of feasting and fasting, because I get a lot of clients, especially women, especially younger women, who don't understand that if you're going to fast, when it comes time to eat, you have to eat.
Yep.
You can't be afraid of food. You can't be still in the low-fat diet mindset. Okay, I fasted for a day and a half. Now I'm going to refeed with a salad and 3 ounces of chicken. It doesn't work that way.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the people who have, quote-unquote, adrenal fatigue, or that's when the thyroid tanks. It's not the keto. It's the fact that you're starving yourself. Right. You're unintentional. You don't mean to. But women are just so scared of food.
I couldn't agree more. So how do you deal with women who are scared, or any client who is scared of eating fat? How do you change their mental way of looking at fat from unnecessary calories to fuel?
Well, most of the people who come to me are already doing low carb or keto, and they're not getting results. So most of them are sort of not afraid of fat. If anything, I get people that are overdoing fat at the expense of adequate protein. Sure. They're so afraid of protein that they're loading up on fat instead of consuming more protein. But for the people who are new, and it's really a big mindset shift, I sort of just try to have them keep in mind, you've already been eating a certain way your whole life, and look where it's gotten you. What do you have to lose by trying this other way? And I'll just say that this is how I eat. If I thought this was harmful, I wouldn't be telling you to do it. I mean, I'm a nutritionist, but I have to have malpractice insurance. Like, if I thought this was going to harm you, I wouldn't be telling you to do it.
Right.
Or you just, that's normally what I say, but I guess the better answer is you just explain on a very basic level how the body works.
Right.
Once you're off the carb roller coaster and your insulin's low, you're running on fat. And so even if you're heavy and you have a lot of body fat, you still need to eat fat too. So.
Yeah.
And so what's your advice to other nutritionists who are sort of tempted, dipping their toe in the water and tempted to go down a low carbohydrate path?
If they've never done it before? That's a good, no one's ever asked me that before.
Would you suggest maybe try it themselves, or?
Oh, for sure. If they've never done it, I don't think you can coach somebody through it if you've never tried it and you don't know what it's like. I would there's probably a couple of books that I would recommend, learn the science of how this works, because even like we discussed how I was new when I read the Atkins book, understanding the mechanisms of how it works made me not afraid. When when I got my master's in nutrition, I was already eating low carb for a few years. And I got the degree because I felt like it would give me more confidence to have the letters after my name. So in school, though, in learning the biochemistry and learning the anatomy and physiology, it was like, oh, that's why this works. That's why this does what it does.
Yeah.
Like, I have no fear whatsoever now of eating red meat, of eating saturated fat. It just doesn't scare me because I know how the body works. I'm also not afraid of vegetables, though. Like, I'm not a pure carnivore. All the love to the carnivores. I have nothing against it, but I'm just not,
one of the problems that we talked about this before too, but one of the problems with, the people who did Atkins in the 90s is that salt wasn't really understood back then. And people attribute the kind of ills that they got when they eat more fat and less carbohydrates to the fat, because that's the the obvious answer, right? I mean, back then it certainly was. But now we know about salt, and we know about electrolytes and all of those things that can cause people to go, oh, this isn't for me, and give up. And so when somebody says, what do you do? I like Ted Naiman's answers, bacon and eggs for 2 weeks. Just eat bacon and eggs for 2 weeks because you got your salt.
Yeah.
You got your fat
eggs
and
are pretty
protein.
good complete source of nutrition, pretty much. So you
So
can grow a
he's-
chicken out of one.
That's it. So I just tell people eat bacon and eggs for 2 weeks and come back and see me. That's what he said.
And it probably works every time.
It works every time. Yeah. What other tricks do you give people to get them to comply or
I mean, like I said, it's rare that I actually get anyone that's new. Most of the people that come to me are doing it for a while already. I guess I just try to talk sense to people. A lot of the people I get are so mired in the measuring and the tracking and the weighing. And if you enjoy doing that, do it, but it's just not necessary for most people. If you're eating the right thing, you shouldn't have to do a calculus assignment. It just,
That's the way I did it too. I was all about these foods are out, these foods are in. If I feel like eating more salad one day, I'll have some more salad. If I feel like eating more meat, I'll eat more of that. So I just did it the way I began to trust what my body was calling for, because that's what happens when you find yourself in the fridge at 3 a.m. That's your body waking you up and getting you there. Your brain didn't say, "Oh, I must need more carbohydrate right now. I think I will have some pizza." Your body is actually doing that. You're not even aware of it. So I just trusted what my body was telling me to eat and ate it.
Well, we're so used to not trusting our body when we're deranged. I mean, we're used to saying my body wants, we'll eat all the food. If I have 2 large pizzas in front of me, I will eat 2 large pizzas.
The other day, we were out and I had a blue cheese craving. Anybody ever have a blue cheese craving? That's the weirdest thing. Yeah, salt, but also that funky, nasty kind of tang in your mouth,
Nasty
umami.
in a good way. We love blue, good nasty blue
Oh,
cheese.
absolutely. I had a craving for some Roquefort, and I go to and on the way home, we stop at ShopRite down here, which they usually have some, and they were out. So I got this smoked blue cheese. Yeah, don't ever get smoked blue cheese.
No. So
Karen Ogilvy's shaking her head. She was there.
Yeah, and Siobhan Huggins was also there. It's funny, blue cheese has this funny kind of flavor combination where it works really well with things like walnuts. So, I mean, there are things that blue cheese works really well with. Celery and blue cheese, really nice combo. But blue cheese, and there are some tasty things that you can pair with blue cheese, and both blue cheese and that tasty thing will fight each other. Like, never eat blue cheese and sardines. No. Sardines taste nice. Blue cheese tastes nice. The two together will just fight each other like cats and dogs.
Why would you do that? But I want to say something before I forget about not just people that are new, but people that have been doing this that are struggling. There's a reason Atkins induction works so well, and there's a reason Ted Naiman's bacon and eggs works so well, and there's a reason Dr. Westman's page 4 works so well. It's because this is the list of foods you can eat. Period. If it's not on the list, don't eat it. It takes all the guesswork out. Right. And it may not be as fun or as enjoyable, but it's effective. Yeah. It takes all the questions. Well, can I have that? How much of this am I allowed to have?
How many grams?
You don't even ask the question because that food's not even on the list. And the foods that are on the list, it's pretty much unlimited. Right. Even Atkins induction, everybody forgets, was basically unlimited protein, assuming it was no breading, no fillers, but unlimited plain chicken, beef, pork, eggs.
He said, eat these foods and eat until you're full. Yeah. And stop when you're full and eat when you're hungry. Yeah. That's basically it.
It's deceptively simple. We've made keto so much more complicated than it needs to be.
I think in future we're going to do some podcast episodes where instead of saying keto is under 20 grams, we'll just say keto is page 4. That's a good idea. Keto is Tim Noakes' green list. Or,
there you go.
There you go. Keto is Ted Naiman's bacon and eggs every day.
If it's not on the list, you don't eat it. End of story.
Very good. So what's next for you? What are you doing after you leave here?
Well, What is next? There's a keto retreat up in Canada, in Perth, Ontario. So there's very little going on north of the border of these events. So if you're up in Canada, come see us in Perth. I have an idea for a second book. I wrote a book called The Alzheimer's Antidote. I'll be speaking tomorrow here at Keto Fest. But I have an idea. This isn't for public consumption, except the thousands of listeners out there will know now.
Nobody's listening. Don't worry about
nobody's
it.
Listening.
It's just us.
This is like, do you ever listen to Rob Bull's podcast? The 6 listeners can't be wrong. I'm thinking about doing a book on men's health and insulin as the driver of so many men's health issues.
Yeah.
Prostate hypertrophy, erectile dysfunction, cardiovascular disease, all of these men's issues. Not that cardiovascular is a equal opportunity illness, but, it's like the #1 killer of men is heart disease.
Yeah.
And I just think nobody's talking about the fact that chronic hyperinsulinemia is the main driver of all of that.
Yeah.
And what man isn't going to want to read a book that tells him if you want to reverse all that, eat steak.
Right.
So
fix erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
With steak.
Yeah.
There's your title.
Who wouldn't love that?
That could be said in so many more vulgar ways, but
this is a family show. This is a PG podcast.
I just planted that seed in your imagination. You're welcome. So anyway, that sounds like a great book. Well, this is great. Everybody give Amy Berger a big hand for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And are you peckish?
I'm peckish.
Are you ladies peckish?
There are ladies in the front row wearing T-shirts that say "feeling peckish."
Well, I guess we better cook up some
recipes. So we're only going to do one recipe today.
Yeah.
And it's actually a recipe I cooked today.
Yep.
And this was over at RD86. I did a cooking demo. And anybody in the audience who had the lamb.
It was awesome.
Thank you very much. So I've done the lamb before as a recipe, and I've done the fennel salad before as a recipe. But one of the things I did different this time was a suggestion by Chef Robert at RD86. And he suggested what I do with the juices that come out of the lamb. When you slow cook the lamb, all of these juices and a lot of fat comes out. And a lot of people who are trying to, traditionally people would drain off the fat. If you're keto, you're going to eat the fat. You're just going to shred the meat and have it soak up all that fat.
Yeah.
But Chef Robert suggested something different. He said, take that braising liquid off, and then he said, confit some garlic. Now, confit is a method of cooking a meat or a vegetable in oil at a very low temperature. And the way you do this is you basically take a pot and you fill it with garlic cloves and you add olive oil till it just covers the last garlic clove, and then you put it on a low heat for like 6 hours. And at the end of that, the clove, you can actually squeeze it between your fingertips, and it's like toothpaste. It's turned a really hard clove and the taste is just so rounded and delicious. It's lost that sharp, hot garlic flavour.
Right.
What he did was he suggested that I confit all this garlic in olive oil, and then take that garlic and add it to the braising liquid and get a stick blender and blend it and make mayonnaise. So I made lamb mayonnaise. And then put that on the pulled meat. And anyone who's had that will tell you that the sauce was the killer combination. So that's my recipe for today. It's a very simple one. It's not going to be on a blog anywhere. You're going to have to see the recording of the Keto Fest cooking demonstration.
So I usually have a recipe, but I've been a little busy this week. However,
you had a Keto Fest to do.
Yeah, that's okay. But I can tell you one of the last meals that I made for myself and how I did it. And I had a version of this on the show before, but I simplified it, and I got the idea from Brenda Zorn, by the way. She's here, and she's amazing. Lamb shanks. Anybody like lamb shanks? Oh, yeah, lamb shanks are awesome. Yeah. What's great about lamb shanks, especially when you use a pressure cooker or Instapot, some people say, is that all that connective tissue turns into this like gelatinous, gooey, gluey, kind of sticky, lovely stuff. And so what I used to do is I used to put braising liquid in it and cover it in liquid, like stock or something like that, and cook them that way. And then they dried out. So what I do is I just put olive oil, rosemary, salt, pepper on it, and into the Instapot right on the bottom without any liquid or anything like that. So you get some burned bits on the bottom. Hey, that's okay.
They're good.
They're delicious.
They're crispy.
Yeah, crispy. And of course, that oil just coats everything, and the salt and the rosemary is a perfect pairing with, and garlic, of course, too. I put garlic in there.
And it keeps the juices inside the lamb shank.
Keeps the juices inside the lamb shank, and you get that, you really taste the connective tissue when it's done. And I do it in an Instant Pot on high, which is chicken and meat or whatever, for an hour cycle. And that's all it takes.
Nice.
That's it.
So, Amy, did you have a recipe that you wanted to...
Oh, I wasn't...
This is a question without notice.
I wasn't...
I'd like to thank the Academy.
I wasn't prepared. A recipe. I'm trying to think if I've made anything new lately. I made goat for the first time recently, actually. Yeah, I did a goat curry, and I did it, I didn't do it in the slow cooker. I had a enameled cast iron, so I browned the meat first, put it in. I had canned tomatoes, like diced tomatoes with some chilies, I think, and I used curry powder and coconut milk. It was so good. I think goat is really underestimated.
Nice?
It's hard to find. If you have a Middle Eastern market or an Asian market in your neighborhood, you can usually find goat.
It's really good after the Feast of Eid. So after Ramadan, the fasting month for Muslims, they have a big feast where they have traditionally would have a lot of goat. And after that feast, all of the butchers that support that community have a lot of it frozen that they couldn't sell.
And they usually, goat is, Lisa, they do sell ground goat, but mostly I see it on the bone, which is great because it's perfect for stews, curries, Instant Pot, slow cooker kind of, and it's also that connective tissue, all the gnarly bits, but that's the good stuff, right? You can drink powdered bone broth protein, or you can eat delicious shanks and knuckles and, you know.
Yeah. Do you eat keto shakes? No, I eat keto shanks. Hey, nothing against the keto shakes. Those are great if you need that. That's cool. But I think we've come to the end of another great episode.
I think we have a show. Of course, if you've heard anything that you want to tell us, something we said wrong, something you don't agree with, some more research that you found to support or refute anything we've said, send it by email to dudes@2ketodudes.com or post it on our website.
And you can follow us on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram at 2KetoDudes. And make sure to use the hashtag 2KetoDudes.
And of course, if you want to join the free ketogenic forum, it's forum.2keto.com. And you can have a look around the ketogenic forum without needing to create an account by starting with success.2keto.com.
And if useless swag is your fancy, you know, t-shirts, mugs, and all their junk with witty keto sayings on them, head over to gear.2keto.com.
And if you want a shot at getting some of that swag for free, join the 2Keto Dudes fan club. You'll be eligible to win something in every show. Go to fanclub.2keto.com.
And if you feel like supporting our forums and all the podcasts we produce, think about a monthly pledge on our Patreon page at patreon.2keto.com.
You can see all of our podcasts and other videos on YouTube at youtube.2keto.com, and check out Carl's cooking videos at carlskitchen.com.
And one more round of applause for Amy. You want any last words?
Yeah, thank you. We said earlier, this is the first time I've met you guys in person, but I've been listening to your podcast for a long time now, and I just want to thank you publicly. I think you mentioned you started keto in 2016. I don't know when you started, but 2014. Yeah. Only a few years, and look what you've literally commandeered the town, this huge keto celebration. This is the second year in a row. What you've accomplished in such a short amount of time is incredible. You have one of the most popular forums. It's amazing, and thank you, because I am happy to buy my ticket and come, but I could never plan anything like this. I can't organize it, so I'm glad that someone else does.
I can't organize it either.
You've accomplished something amazing.
My best. Thank you. All right, you crazy people. We'll see you next time on 2 Keto Dudes.